Hello, BookTube. We're continuing my 2023 library tour. We're working our way down this bookcase, and we are at the bottom shelf. So let's see what we have. Okay, first of all, we have Kenneth Roberts, who your grandparents would have known as the author of Northwest Passage or Rabble in Arms. He did this book, Trending into Maine, with illustrations by N.C. Wyeth. I just love this book, absolutely love it. It's quasi-fictional sketches and glimpses of different periods in Maine history, following his fictional characters. His Maine area histories are so well researched that, and yet so passionate. He felt them so immediately that he very winningly blurs the line between fiction and nonfiction. And this is just a terrific collection, especially if you know Maine. Especially, I know Maine fairly well. I've spent a lot of time up there. I wish I found this cheap at the Brattle Bookshop. Sooner or later, I will see another copy of this with where I can, put a normal library covering on it. But I love this thing anyway. And the copy that I got had, let's see if I can get it here, had clippings that somebody had put in. Not me, somebody else had put them in. So that's a delightful thing always anyway. Okay, then we have a trade paperback that does not belong here. This does not belong here. This is The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William Shirer. Big fat thing that is really, really good. Just glowingly brilliant, I think. But I have a history section. I can't put all the history that I like in here. I have a history section that, and guaranteed I'm going to be looking for it in history when it's in here if I don't consolidate. So I should do that. Okay. All right, great. When did this come out? This came out in 1909. This is William Winter, Old Friends, no dust jacket, just his signature on the naked cover. And this is, you've got people in here like Charles Dickens, of course, but mainly this is just another book of glimpses of Boston's literary past. So you've got Longfellow and Emerson and Thoreau and whatnot, but also other figures that have disappeared. Who is in the table of contents here? See, he puts at the beginning of the book, he puts a picture of Dickens because he knows what is going to sell. He doesn't put a picture of himself. He puts a picture of Dickens. So George William Curtis is in here. Bayard Taylor, Thomas Bailey Aldrich, who we've seen on this channel. I have everything by and about Thomas Bailey Aldrich. Oliver Wendell Holmes, Longfellow, George Arnold, Moore. This is a collection of Aldrich's letters. They're scattered far and wide. There are volumes about Aldrich that I don't have. I've never seen them even at the Brattle. And also other figures from Boston's literary past that are long gone. But also a couple of long essays that are just about that literary past, not about any one particular person. So really, I do have, we saw this yesterday, and we've seen others. We've seen a bunch of others along this library tour. What I really ought to do is make a shelf just for these things so that I have them all together and I know where they are. Okay, then we have the great classicist Bernard Knox. In the early 1990s, he noticed a slight trend in some corners of academia towards what was then called political correctness. A slight trend towards people coming forward and denouncing school reading lists and canons that were composed of dead white European males. That was when the phrase originated, was back in the 90s. And he thought it was deplorable, but so small as to be a subject of scorn and kind of humor. He had no idea that in 20 years that would have won. That has now completely taken over academia, 100%. So now when you say that, it is a given, not only that no core curricula should ever be composed around dead white European males, but also that no core curricula should really contain any dead white European males, and most of all, the underlying assumption that everything written by dead white European males is evil, because dead white European males are evil, and the way we know that is because white males now are all evil. That is being taught in colleges by tenured professors in the Ivy League, telling their students that white people as a race need to be taken out. Bernard Knox did not see that coming at all when he made this collection of pieces called The Oldest Dead White European Males, which is just a collection of discussions of the classics. That's all. It's not a big thing at all. I got this through the History Book Club as a little side offer that they were doing, and I go back to it. Knox is really, really good. A lot of you will know him best as the guy who wrote the introductions to the Fagles, Iliad, and Odyssey, and those introductions are amazing. They are works of art. His books on their own are also works of art. I think there are 2 others that I have. Needless to say, they are not with this one. But seeing this title, of course, is kind of bittersweet, because what looked like a flash in the pan of preening oversensitivity has now become a full-blown religion and taken over academia. So Bernard Knox, if he went to, with the credentials that got him in the door in academia 100 years ago or whatever, would be turned away. And two Ivy League schools out of a lot of them, and plenty of just below Ivy League schools, when they turned him away, would have sotto voce, off the record, but face to face and out loud said, "We're just not taking white people. Your kind need not apply." So he could not have imagined in the early, I think this came out in the early 1990s, he could not have imagined what the world of academia would become. But the book is here. The book is really good. Okay, then we have my battered, oh God, look at how battered this is. Good Lord. This is my battered copy of the Dune encyclopedia. I had to reinforce it because it was falling apart. It's all waterlogged and heat logged because I have gone at this thing a million times. It's double columned all throughout. And everything in here is listed alphabetically. So Caladan Wines, Butlerian Jihad, and also Butler, the person who the jihad is named after, Bene Gesserit Training, Bene Gesserit History, Siona Atreides, Mentat's History, Mentat Organization, Mentat Politics. This is everything. In God Emperor of Dune, for instance, there's a very minor character, the historian Malki, who is a kind of a friend, an old roguish friend to the God Emperor Leto II, and plays, at least his genetic material, plays an important part in the book. But here he gets a whole story. His whole story is in here, all of it from Frank Herbert. All of this is from Frank Herbert. Here you get the whole story of spice, its chemical breakdown. Here you get the fascinating long story. The entries vary wildly in here in length. You get the long story of the Holtzman drive, of the faster than light technology that knits together the worlds of Dune. It's taken as a completely given piece of the backdrop in the novels, but here you get the whole story of it and the people involved. This is every bit as fascinating to read as any of Frank Herbert's Dune novels. I wish that somebody would bring it back into print. No one will, because the people who own the rights to it want you to believe that there is no difference between Frank Herbert's novels and the 50 novels written by his son. And this book is only about the novels of Frank Herbert, so they're not going to do that. They're never going to bring this back out. The publisher very much wants to blur the line between the fan pastiche knockoff fiction that is not very good and the original novels that are very good. They want very much to blur the line between those two. So they'll never bring this back into print. I seem to remember that the last time I went looking for a copy of this, it was expensive online. I don't know. I might be remembering that wrong, but it's certainly worth it. If it's not expensive, if you're a Dune fan, it's worth it to have. It will displace whatever book you're reading right now. If you're a Dune fan and you're thinking, well, it'd be nice to have the encyclopedia, I'll look up this, that, and the other thing, and then you realize what's in here, which is little narratives, one after another, little narratives, thousands of them. It'll displace whatever you're reading, and you'll just read this until you're done with it. Oh, great. This was from Princeton University Press. This came out years ago, I think, before we were talking to each other. July 2016, so right about, I might have hauled this on my channel. This is just a dream come true. This is an annotated edition of An Essay on Man by Alexander Pope. So you get the poem and then tons of annotation, tons of it, which is just amazing. It's just absolutely incredible. I didn't know that it was coming. A lot of times with academic presses, I know what's coming. I've been given their catalog. I've been talking with their publicists. Somehow this slipped between the tracks. So the first time I saw it, was when I opened it in the mail. I was blown away. That moment might be captured on film. I don't know. You'd have to go back to July of 2016 to see. Oh, okay. Then we have this is a figure who has cropped up here before. This is Spring Tides by Samuel Eliot Morison. Little book of his. There is our author and his wife on the back there. This is a little collection of Morison. I really should have all the Morison together, but this is a little bit of an anomaly anyway. So, and I don't see it that often. Half the books that you're seeing here, this thing, and the Dune Encyclopedia, and Old Friends by Bill Winter, and yesterday there was these Conan volumes that may or may not be Book of the Month Club. There was Everybody's Lamb. There was Fields of the Atlantic Monthly. All of these things, and so many more of them. This thing, the Saturday Evening Post reader of short stories. So many of these things are such quintessential Brattle Bookshop books. Where if I didn't have access to that shop, I doubt I'd have seen these. But that's not true for this next one. This next one came to my bookstore. This is a Barnes & Noble edition. A little while, about 30 years ago, Barnes & Noble dabbled in making its own reprint editions. They'd been doing that forever for canonical stuff that is out of copyright. But they decided, what if we did something more? What if we throw in a little more energy into that side of what we do? So let's find some books that maybe aren't out of copyright, but whose copyright can be got on the cheap, and reprint them as rediscovered classics. They also brought out originally a beautiful original line of reprint volumes of stuff that is in copyright, out of copyright, only with new introductions, new artwork. They spent money on them, in other words. And I wish that they'd continued along that line. It breaks my heart that they have continued along that line, but I wish they'd done a lot. I wish they'd gone in a whole hog with that instead of spending half of $1 billion on investing in the Nook, their e-reader. I wish that they'd stuck with books instead. But this is one of the examples of what they did. This is F.O. Matheson's book, American Renaissance, in the Barnes & Noble Rediscovers classic hardcover with a Grant Wood cover illustration there. I've seen American Renaissance a million times at the Brattle Bookshop, but I'd already seen this come and go at Barnes & Noble, and I knew that I wanted this version. And then it showed up. And this is all about Whitman and Dickinson and the change in American letters. It's a big book, but it's so good. It's so good. It's literary history and even, I guess, a little bit of literary criticism, only done right, done really well instead of tedious. Oh no, oh my. Okay, well, this next one is a double. It's an old double, but it's still a double. This is one of that old Venice guidebook. We've already seen this with the dust jacket. Here is a copy that was down on this bottom shelf. It doesn't have a dust jacket, and it has tons and tons of really beautiful black and white photos, often in great detail, often with period interest. And at the beginning, it also has, if I remember correctly, it has at the beginning a little fold-out map. Nothing all that special, not a great degree of detail, but nice details all the same for something that is 100 years old. Is that right? Are you 100 years old? 1957, not quite 100 years old. But this still has to go. Pretty or not, it has to go because it's just an explicit double. And it's a lesser thing because this thing is battered, but at least it does have the dust jacket on it. So it's the same book, so it has to go. It is the same book, yes? So, is it not? Let's take a look and see, just to be absolutely sure. Oh, no, it's not. Son of a gun. No, this is a different book. No wonder. All right, well, the one with the dust jacket doesn't have a fold-out map. No, these are two separate. This is by the composer, Fauré. So these are two separate books. All right, great. So it doesn't have to go. But it does have to be, it underscores all the more that I should have a shelf for Venice books. So I'm not worried about that. All right, well, this is lovely on its own. This deserves, since I almost killed it, it deserves a revisitation. I will revisit this is translated text by the composer. Yeah, let's put that out so we can revisit it. And what have we got here? Oh, wow, oh, wonderful. All right, this is also a figure that we've already seen. This is Henry Beadle Huff. This is Singing in the Morning and Other Essays about Martha's Vineyard. This is from regular columns that he did for the Vineyard Gazette with illustrations. The illustrations are by Will Huntington. He did regular columns, whatever was striking his fancy about vineyard living, especially the seasons. He was a keen observer. He walked out in all weathers, so he was a keen observer of the seasons. Again, the kind of thing, just the kind of thing that you would only find at the Brattle Bookshop regularly. The kind of thing you would expect to find at the Brattle Bookshop, which is why I have so many of this kind of book. Then what? Oh, okay. We have The Best of Rumpole, chosen by John Mortimer. This is a collection of short stories by that Old Bailey hack, Horace Rumpole. So we have Rumpole and the Younger Generation, Rumpole and the Show Folk, Rumpole and the Tap End, which is absolutely hilarious, Rumpole and the Bubble Reputation, which is my favorite Rumpole story and is also absolutely hilarious, Rumpole a la carte, which is great, Rumpole and the Children of the Devil, and Rumpole on Trial, which is quintessential for the character. So some real hits there. That a lot of times authors are the ones who can be least trusted to pick their best stories, but there's some real good hits there. And then we have Forever Rumpole. So this is an even prettier and bigger volume. This is has an introduction by Anne Maladieu, and it has all of those things. So the Younger Generation, the Show Folk, the Tap End, Bubble Reputation, Rumpole a la carte, Rumpole and the Children of the Devil, and Rumpole on Trial. And then more. And then a lot more. So The Way Through the Woods, The Angel of Death, Old Familiar Faces, Rumpole Rests His Case, Rumpole and the Primrose Path, Rumpole Redeemed, Rumpole and the Christmas Break, and Rumpole and the Brave New World. So that is there's a picture of Horace Rumpole's, the wig that he wears as a barrister in number 3, Equity Court. Although that wig is a lot brighter and shinier than his. His is rather dingy looking. So this is that volume plus, then again, more stories. I reviewed this. I'm pretty sure this is what I reviewed. I reviewed a Rumpole book for my editor at the National years and years ago. I saw it in the list and thought, well, he's a British expat. He's living in Abu Dhabi, but he's from England. Maybe there's a chance that somebody will let me write about Rumpole for a large audience. So I pitched it to him, and he was over the moon about it. He loved Rumpole, so I got to write about it. I'm pretty sure it was this volume. But if I have this volume, I don't need this volume. This volume has everything. Everything that's in here is in here plus twice as much. So it can go. With a lot of other books in this part of the library, it can go. It is simply a double or unneeded or in the wrong place. So a lot of major reconstruction to be done in the little book room. That's the havoc that this library tour is leaving behind. But it's a good kind of havoc. I actually want to do this. I'm glad that I'm going through this book by book, putting my hands on them, looking at them. I need to rearrange things. I want all of the Boston history stuff together. I want all the Venice stuff together. I say that year after year. It's high time I did it in 2023. But not right now. Not right now. Now I'm just going to stop. So we'll move on to the next shelf, probably down here, whenever I can get to it. So I will wrap this up. I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.